Hey guys, this is Cayem Interviews, Cayem Podcast. I'm here with...
No warning either with the fucking jewel popping. Hi everybody, Brandon here.
Here, fuck, I don't know. Should we redo it?
No, hell no. All
right, we're not redoing it.
That's the best take we could get.
All right, that's the best thing that could possibly happen. Ripping the jewel, fucking
I bought it
sponsorship.
today. I'm trying to quit. Yeah, give me a sponsorship. I need a bunch of those little mango things.
You're not gonna get it. I'm gonna get it.
You get it,
and then I'll give it
mail
to you.
them to me.
Yeah, I'll mail them to you.
You know,
yeah.
we're at chain once every month, so just leave them under the door. And
Surprise show, not a fucking surprise.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. Like talking about this one, I was like posting some places, just being like, okay, we're playing Anaheim House of Blues. We have a day off, and then another date. We're playing a secret show on this tour. Where do you think it is? Like,
do the
you know
math.
what I mean? It's like, take a guess where a secret Counterparts show would be in Southern California. Like, you know what I mean?
On an off
we'll just
day.
go play Fresno because we love it there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Come on.
Fuck. Yeah, what you were saying, I said I'd live anywhere in California until I visited
Until
Redding.
I went to Redding, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure, like, I
Rough.
will be fair. Like, I'm obviously, like, joking. Like, if you're from Redding, I'm I'm fucking around. But just, like, being in that, like, because we stayed at a casino resort and just, like, it felt like we were not anywhere near California.
Yeah.
And then we were, because obviously we had to drive slower on the highway because of the trailer. But, because of that law. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we were just, like, we were chilling in this casino, and I was like, what the fuck is going on in Redding? Like, this place is crazy, man. But, you know, it was a good night regardless. I mean, it's a standard Counterparts at a casino night. Like, I lost my money in like 15 minutes, and then I went to bed. So it's just classic off-day casino for us. So
Same outcome as Vegas.
yeah, basically the 5 Vegas stops on Warped Tour like last summer. Literally milked me dry. I'd kill for that money right now.
I'd kill for that money.
Yeah.
Blood money. So let's talk about Ron Jeremy hopping in your green room the other day.
That was psycho. I mean, like, you know, like you know what I mean? Like, when I was posting about it, like, obviously it's not like I was necessarily like starstruck, and like, I don't necessarily think, you know, I'm not like a fan of his work by any means. So it obviously, like, people know him, right? Mm-hmm. And I got off stage and I walked downstairs, and it was just like, it was a weird mix, right? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, we got like the Madden brothers are there, and then it's like, you know, like Davey Havoc's walking around, like all these like, you know, people. I'm like, holy shit, like, I know a lot of these people. And then it's like, well, and take a guess who ends up in our green room. It's fucking Ron Jeremy. And he's eating, and not even just like sitting there. Like, if I walked in and he was just like sitting, I'd be like, oh yeah, he's probably just tired.
Yeah.
You know, look at him, he's probably tired as hell. But he was like just shoveling like our veggie tray into his mouth, and I'm like, and so I walked in, and like, it didn't click. I didn't stop. Like, I knew who he was, and I was just like, hey man, what's up? And then I just went and sat there, and I think he was like looking at me like, oh no, I got caught. And I was just on my phone watching him just fucking do his thing. And then he's like, yeah, can I grab like a soda or something? I'm like, yeah, man, go ahead. Like, you
Go for it.
You helped yourself to half of the rest. Not that we actually care, but it was just like, that in itself, like, you know, it's more of a funny story than anything. Like, I would never be mad about somebody eating our veggie tray seriously. You know what I mean? I would never care about that. But it was just like, you know, oh, we're in LA, like, anything can happen. Fucking, you know, Tinseltown, and then it's Ron Jeremy in our green. And then the questions were like, who the fuck does he know? How did he get backstage? Like, whose guest list was
why
he on?
your
Like,
dressing room out of all
why
of them?
ours? Like, you know, we're opening the tour. We never have like a decent sized room. It's like, you know, it's like you literally picked like, okay, who has the least amount of rider and the smallest room possible, and I want to go in and fuck that up, and you did it.
And a good spread of vegetables.
Yeah, apparently our veggie spread is nuts. I will say though, the pitas that day that they gave us with the hummus was great. It was like so fresh, and it's insane.
They killed it.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, LA Fonda.
Fonda,
yeah.
The Fonda. Yeah, I watched. No, you guys are never gonna get your vegetable tray fucked with ever again.
Probably not. We're gonna have to put locks on it. And shit. Like, you know what I mean? Putting fucking Dudleys on that thing, setting the, you know,
DeWalt and shit.
Yeah, just make the passcode 7861. No one will ever guess that.
Yeah, 786. All right, so let's just talk about. I kind of want to get, you know, some context of the entire beginning of Counterparts, just to start off, and then we'll work our way from there. But just kind of not how did the band start, whatever, but more so like what was the first like heavy band you got into that kind of was like, damn, I kind of might want to do this when I get older.
Yeah, I think so. I think like the first one for me was probably I got like a radio sampler when I was younger, and it was like a rock radio station in Hamilton, and the songs that were like, they had like Slipknot on it and stuff like that. So I think that was probably the first time I heard like screaming, you know what I mean? And I was like, and like I got into that, and I was into like Slipknot and Marilyn Manson, and like like the new metal stuff forever. And then I think like just from there I started getting more into bands like The Used and My Chemical Romance and From First to Last and Under Oath and like all that kind of stuff. And it's funny, like I did a podcast with Josh today, and he was asking me how how I got into it as well. And it's a funny story. So my high school had uniforms, and the 9th grade, it was like the first month of being in high school. There was a day every month where you didn't have to wear your uniform. You could wear whatever you want.
Okay.
And I wore From First to Last shirt. I got it from the Opera House in Toronto when the tour was From First to Last, He Is Legend, Haste the Day.
Oh shit.
And I saw that in Toronto. I grabbed it From First to Last shirt, youth large. I will add. And I was walking around and I saw there's this girl Bethany who I'm like still friends with to this day. And I saw her and she had an Under Oath zip up on, and she was like, "You like From First to Last?" I was like, "Yeah, I like Under Oath too." And she was like, "Oh, cool." Like, and then we started talking, and she was a year older, and and then she was like, "Oh, like, come hang out with my friends. Like, we like there's only a couple like scene kids at the high school, so
like a gang."
Yeah, you can come hang out with me. So I hung out with them, and then that's sort of like how everything got started, and how I, they because they were a little bit older than me, so they were bringing me out to shows and stuff, and being like, yeah, like Rose is Dead is like a local Ontario band. It's like, oh, they're playing a show, and all these other bands, and it was just so we just. I just started going, and that's when I got into, obviously like bands like The Used and Alexis on Fire and, all that stuff. Like they were big, right? So working from that, like going to local shows and doing more of that sort of thing, that's when I started seeing, like smaller types of bands and stuff like that. And then I think that's when I got into, I started looking for other bands, and I would find, stuff that wasn't necessarily as popular at the time. Like, I'd move backwards and be like, I don't know if you remember It Leaked, the website.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like where everybody got all their records back in the day. So I was on that website, and I would see like album artwork and like for fans of, and I would download everything. Yeah. Everything that I thought I would even kind of like, I just downloaded it to check it out. So I started doing that, and and that's how I got exposed to like a lot of these bands, right? And that's how I found bands like like the metalcore stuff, like early Parkway Drive, Misery Signals, Poison the Well, Hallude, Bleeding Through, Kill Switch, like all those. I'm forgetting like pretty
As
much.
They Lay Dying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like pretty much like the entire like Trust, Kill, and Ferret catalogs and stuff like that, and that's sort of where it stemmed from. And then one day it was on like MySpace, somebody posted a bulletin being like, yo, like starting a heavy band, like come jam. And I was like, yo, I play guitar, like I'll come jam. And they're like, yeah, cool, like we need a guitar player. I'm like, okay.
They had nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they had 2 vocalists, but no guitar players or bass players.
Of course. Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course. So that was called No Claim to Mercy. That was the first time I like tried to play music with other people. Really, I mean, aside like from high school, I or like the 8th grade or whatever, I was in like a band that just covered From First to Last and Census Fail songs and stuff. But so I go there and I bring my guitar, like my fucking like Epiphone SG and like my tiny like Fender Frontman 15G amp and like combo, and I bring that there, and my dad drops me off, and it's Jesse's house, like Jesse Doreen. Yeah. And so I go in, and it's like my friend Kenny, who's like my best friend now. He's there, like he was one of the singers, and then a couple of the other guys, like we didn't have a drummer or nothing, and they were just like, yeah, like let's just jam. So we like, fucked around, and we were doing like Job for a Cowboy, like Pig Squealing type stuff. And then, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. And then so then we started, and then we just like got together, and then that was the day I met Jesse. And so in my mind, I was like, well, if we're gonna do this and we're gonna play guitar, like we should write songs together and stuff like that, and like we should make the songs and then find the people after. So him and I would we would just like hang out and we would write. He didn't live too far from me, so that was like my first, because we went to different high schools. So that was my first sort of like, I met Jesse then, and then it was like hey, I guess we're in a band together. So then we started jamming and writing songs. But he obviously showed much more ability in terms of songwriting than I did. Like, he's a great guitar player. So yeah. So then I got to a point where, we had this guy, Mark, like singing for us. I think he was singing, or it was 2 people or whatever or what. And then it just kind of, we had a drummer. He came to Jesse's house and like met him, and they started jamming. And then the guy was like, yeah, I don't know, like this isn't really my kind of thing or whatever. So they stopped talking, and we were like, fuck it, like we should just try and like find other people to do it. So that was when I was like, well, you know, I sang in the first band I ever played in, so I can do vocals. And also I was like, I'm not that great at guitar. I can't really write that well. So I think that somebody else should take that on for sure. So yeah, so then, you know, we met our original guitar player, Curtis. You know, he's probably my oldest friend. You know, I've known him we're still friends. I met him like in pre-kindergarten, like daycare.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like 4 or 5 years old or something. And he's been my friend ever since. So I met him and, you know, he was playing guitar with Jesse, and Jesse was writing songs, and I was writing lyrics. And my friend Eric, who I went to high school with, like literally got a bass to join the band. He's like, I want to play in the band. I don't play any instruments, but I'm going to get a bass and learn so I can be in this band.
Yeah.
You know, and then we were kind of, you know, we were like writing stuff here and there and jamming and everything. And then I was in science class one day, and I was sitting beside this girl, Jenny, and we just started talking. Like I said, it was like fairly early on in the year, and we started talking. She's like, "Oh, you know, what are you into? Like, what do you do?" And so I told her, I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to start a band. We just need a drummer." And she's like, "Well, my cousin plays drums." I was like, "Oh, who's your cousin?" She's like, "His name's Ryan Gentilla. And I'm like, "Is he good?" She's like, "Yeah, like I have a video of him on her like LG chocolate." She's like, "Yeah, I can show it to you." And she shows it to me, and he's like ripping, right? And I'm like, holy shit, like this has to be the kid. So she gave me his MySpace, and I messaged him being like, hey, we're in a band. We go to because he went to my high school too. I'm like, we go to the same high school. Some of the guys don't. You know, I sit beside Jenny in science. I would like to, you know, if you want to play in a band and you want to write like heavy stuff, we can jam. And that was it. I remember I went to Jesse's shortly after that. It was the middle of winter. Ryan walked with his drums.
Oh,
like,
shit,
I
yeah.
mean, Jesse had a kit, but Ryan walked with like his cymbals and his snare and like double kick pedal, you know, a good like 10 blocks or something from, you know, I think he was like East 26th and Jesse was East 12th in Hamilton. So he walked all the way there in a snowstorm, and we just like jammed, and like those songs were eventually what became like the first Counterparts. So like we used to be called Brigade back then. Before we found out there was another band called Brigade. Yeah, you know what I mean. And then we just started playing shows, and you know what I mean. And we were already like everybody at my high school that I was friends with, and like all of their friends from different schools and stuff. You know, they all kind of knew each other, so we'd play shows, and everybody would come, and you know, and it was just like I said, it wasn't meant to be like a serious thing really. We were just like whatever, but it's the band I've been playing in since. You know what I mean?
It's been like a decade almost.
Yeah, it's more than that.
More than that now.
11 years. Yeah, it's like that was
Wow.
2007 when I met everybody. So I started high school in 2005. So I guess it was like the 11th grade. I would have met all these people.
Wow.
But yeah, you know what I mean. And then we kept doing it, and now we're here. So
That's a pretty fast takeoff, like from like essentially just right when you meet everyone to like boom. It's like
yeah, right.
Like that's pretty crazy.
You know, it happened like almost seamlessly. You know what I mean. And then obviously, you know, then it was like then when we started, it was more of like a kind of like an ABR, like, you know, now it is like open 7, 8, 10, like dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff. And then we were like, you know, that's when we started hearing, you know, more of like the Misery Signals and the Shai Hulud and the Poison the Well and like that sort of stuff. And we were like, yo, we can do heavy parts and be a heavy band, but we can also be very melodic as well. And, you know, back then, like there was a couple bands in our area doing it, but it wasn't like, you know, I think every band wanted to sound like Bleeding Through and Parkway Drive and stuff.
For sure.
And the only bands that like there was a band called Roses Dead that was doing it. There was a band called Oceans, Riviera Heist, like they're from, you know, a little bit further away, but you know, there was a couple bands that were touring frequently that were doing the more melodic stuff. So we were like, you know what, we want to do this. And that's sort of when, you know, that's when we were writing, and we were doing all that stuff, and it was just like, yeah. Then we changed the name to Counterparts. We like changed our sound from the mosh metal to more melodic, and yeah, then everything just worked. I guess everything just sort of took off, and then the next day we were on tour with Architects and stuff.
Yeah, the next day. Well, yeah, it's also kind of crazy too, because just in general, coming from Canada, that already puts you at a huge disadvantage. So I want to talk about that because
I agree, yeah.
But at the same time, it also kind of benefited you because Shane Told was the first person that believed in you guys.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
yeah,
talk about that a little bit.
Like, so being from Canada, and again, like I actually just explained this to Josh, so I'm seasoned. I can, you know, talk this out of my ass and still sound smart. But with being from Canada, it is a disadvantage, but it's not it's disadvantaged. I wouldn't say it, it's not like being in a race and getting shot in the leg, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's definitely a little bit harder. And I think that it's mainly just because, you being Canadian, it's like, you do your thing to like do Canada, you know what I mean? It's like the goal is to tour, obviously. So you start doing that, but you don't really get in touch with bands before you tour with them. And and then to be a Canadian and go tour the US, you have to have a visa. And stuff. So for a lot of these bands, it was like, they didn't have an opportunity to meet anybody. And, if the buzz wasn't there, promoters in the US they're like, who? Like, who the hell? I don't know what the fuck that is, right? Mm-hmm. So, so starting like that. And then let's say you get the opportunity. It's like, oh, you want to come and tour America? Like, okay, pay us, thousands or whatever for your visas. So a lot of people were like, how the fuck do we do that, right? Like, we didn't even have a van. We had a minivan with a trailer on it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we toured in forever because we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
But then, through doing that and, like, recording Profits and stuff like that, we met Shane. We did, like, we played a show with, like, Oceans, that band, and I'm Committing a Sin, and we played with them, and we did, and, they were all friends with Silverstein. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they're all from Burlington, right? So it's like a 10-minute drive from where I live in Hamilton. So, so we meet them and we play the show with them, and they're all like, you guys are great. Like, you guys sound like Misery Signals. Like, sounds like a Malice. This is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. And they start, they go tell Shane. And then, so Paul Kohler and our friend Rich, they were like trying to do a management company. And we kind of met them like at that point, you know what I mean, when they were trying to start that up. So then they were like, okay, we're going to, we could be like, we could be the band for them to sort of hop off. So we did that. And then that's when Shane was like, we gave him Profits, and he's like, I like this. I'd like to put it out. You guys don't have a label. Like, I would love to press it and put it out. And then, so that was it, really. You know what I mean? Like, we started doing that, and, like, going back to those websites, like It Leaked and stuff, I would put our, like, demos and eventually Profits on there. And it was like, that's sort of how everybody, like, that was everybody's, like, first sort of, exposure to the band. Mm-hmm. And, and like, back when that website was still kicking, like, it was always like in the top downloaded, like the most amount of downloads, like that kind of thing. And I think, so we were just doing our best to get our shit out there and do that. And then, eventually American bands came to Canada, like It Prevails and Shai Hulud and For the Fallen Dreams and all these kind of bands. And then we would just tour with them because it's like, well, they sound like you guys. So yeah, you're on the tour. And we would do it. And then, and then so we would become friends with them, and it'd be like, okay, we're going to do a tour with Shai Hulud, and it ends in Canada, and then we're going to drive back home through the States with each other. So we're going to play shows on the way home. Do you want to do them? And that's when we started, breaking through and doing U.S. shows, and we would play. Our first ever U.S. show was in Rapid City, South Dakota at an AmVets, and we played on the floor with Hulud, and people, like, knew who we were.
Really?
People knew the words, and they were singing, and this is right when, like, the Split came out. So, people knew us, and they were like, I've been waiting for you guys to come here forever. And we're all like, to fucking Rapid City?
North
You've
Dakota.
been waiting? Like, South Dakota or North Dakota, whichever it is. So then that kind of, it just spiraled. Like, we, you know what I mean? We just kept getting our name out, and we did so many tours with Shai Hulud, and then we did a tour in Canada with For the Fallen Dreams and 100th. And that's how we met 100th. And then, they would do American stuff. And then it would be like, hey, do you guys want to come and do that? And we'd be like, yeah. And then we can do Canada, and you guys can come here. And, and that's sort of like how everything kind of started, and how everything, and that's what kind of got our foot in the door in terms of being from Canada. But to go back to the whole disadvantage thing, like, I think that for us, like, we kind of just, it was kind of the right place at the right time for us, because we started meeting people and we started doing all this stuff. And it was like, we didn't have to put in like that much work, but to be a Canadian artist and actually leave Canada, it is difficult. I think now it's not as difficult as long as you know what you're doing. Like like even like Shoji's on his way here. Like, Shoji plays bass in Seaway. Like, I'm sure you know him, but I don't know if anyone else watching does. But I remember when he hit me up being like, yo, how do we get work visas? And I was like, well, you know what? Like, all these other bands like in our area, aside from Silverstein and stuff, like, they used to fuck with us. They used to give us such a hard time, and they would like, they wouldn't even like let us open shows, and they were like, you know what, like, fuck this band or whatever, and they had this weird hatred towards us. And I was like, I'm never gonna be that guy to a band. So, fuck this. Like, I'm gonna help out everybody I could. And I remember on Facebook Messenger giving Shoji like a point by point how to get work visas. And then sure enough, like, a month or two later, he's like, yo, our shit got approved. And then Seaway started touring America. And, look at them now, right? Like,
yeah,
like
they're killing it.
Absolutely killing it. And it's like, so it's a little bit easier now than it was. But I think that it's also because for a minute, like, a lot of U.S. labels, they weren't really concerned about Canada too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think Victory was one of the only ones really, like they had like us, they had Silverstein, they had like Grade back in the day, like they
Did they have Alexis on Fire?
No, not Alexis on Fire, but yeah, but
they're like Canadian too, right?
Alexis on Fire's Canadian. Yeah, they had what was the other band? Farewell to Freeway, Arise and Ruin, like all local bands from Ontario, and Victory were just like, they saw talent in this like untapped market that other people aren't. It's like, well, where's the band from New York or LA? Oh, Canada, fuck, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? So
it's true.
So they were, they pretty much had the market cornered, and then now it's becoming more of a thing. Like you have labels like Pure Noise that they have us and Seaway, and they had I think they just signed that band Bearings from Ottawa, and like all these other bands are. These U.S. labels are looking at international bands now, but back in the day, I don't necessarily think that they were, because I mean it's kind of a liability, right? Like, you don't want to put your neck out and be like, we're gonna tour with this band, or we're gonna put them on our label, and then they can't even get into the country, or you know what I mean? So, but yeah, you know what I mean. So it was very like it was a bit of a disadvantage, but thankfully in our case, when we were in Canada. The one thing that a lot of bands do is like they get big in Canada and then they're like, well, we're already making like thousands of dollars a night in Canada. Like we're not going to go to the US and play for $100. Like we're not doing that. Like we're above that. Like fuck the US. Whereas for us, we were like, well, in Canada we get paid like $200 and in the US we get 100, and with the conversion that's pretty much the same. So we don't give a shit. You know what I mean? We'll just do it.
Well, it's a long-term plan too. Like you're smart about it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that the U.S. was, and even having that guidance from bands like Silverstein, who are still, they're Canadian, and I think they're bigger in America than they are in Canada. You know what I mean? Like they're still wildly successful, and it's like, they were the ones that kind of told us like, Canada's sick, it's cool, but you got to fucking get into the U.S. as fast as you possibly can. So we were like, okay, like we'll do it, we'll do that, and we did, and it was a pain in the ass for sure, but thankfully now it's like, we're good. We just got better visas that last for way longer, so we don't have to worry about that shit too much more often. It's like, it's paying off pretty much.
How did
I'm trying to say.
Yeah, how did the transfer from what was Shane's label called again?
Verona.
Yeah, Verona.
Yeah.
How did it?
That was Verona. That was Shane's. Yeah.
How did that go from Verona to Victory? What was the decision to switch, or how'd that all happen?
So with Verona, like there was never any like contract sort of thing. It was just it was just pretty much Shane like, I'm gonna make 1,000 copies of your record and I'm gonna give you 300 of them to sell, and then I'm gonna keep the rest and put them in stores and online and do that kind of thing. And we're like, okay, sure, let's do it. So we did that, and you know what I mean. Then it became a thing where it was like, yo, we need U.S. distribution because we're here so often.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we would, like we would play shows and people would know who we are, and then they'd be like, oh, can I get your record at, FYE or whatever it is? And we'd be like, oh no, like you have to buy it from us right now or you'll never get it. And they're like, well, what the fuck? So Silverstein, I think they just left Victory at that point.
Okay.
And then, Victory, they approached us, and the guy that was managing us for a minute, like we were kind of shopping around our stuff to different labels and everything, and Victory were interested in, and we had like a couple different labels that were kind of into it, but Victory was the only one that was really like, this is sick, like we want to help you guys, like we'll actually pay you real money to do a record. Like the other things were like, yeah, we'll give you like $1,000 to do a full length, and it's like, yo, on what fucking planet? It's like, we paid out of pocket for profits. That was like $4,000, but back in the day, it was like, that was insane money to us. You know what I mean? Now, sure. Pick any record in our world, like you're looking at minimum 20 grand for sure. Yeah. You know what I mean? In terms of budget. And Victory was the only label that were actually willing to give us that sort of thing. And we were like, well, you know what? They had it. They had A Day to Remember, and they got huge. And they had Taking Back Sunday and Muir and all these bands. It's like maybe we all heard like the stories, Hawthorne Heights, like all all that shit. We heard it all, but we're like, you know what? If they're the only ones that are interested, like, we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
So we decided to sign, and luckily, you know, at the end of it, like, it wasn't even like we hated each other, or it's not even that they were like super difficult.
Yeah.
I think it was just they didn't really get the band too much. Like their like model of how are we gonna make this band big, and like how are we gonna put out this record, it was just a little bit more dated than what was relevant at the moment.
Yeah.
So when it came time for us, it was like, hey, you know, like we're out of our contract, and we just told them, we're like, we're gonna go to a label where, you know, we're a priority, and you know, where that actually know how to like sell records in 2015. And then that was right when we signed to Pure Noise, and then it was like, hey, now we got to go and do Tragedy, you know, and
worked out perfect.
Yeah, and you know what I mean. And it's like, you know, a lot of people always like, they always come up and they're like, dude, fucking Victory, like you got to tell me crazy stories. And I'm like, honestly, I don't really have any. I'm like, the only time I'm like, the only differences we had with them is we like, it would be small things where it'd be like, they'd hit me up and be like, hey, we have to do a repress of Hell and Home. We want to do yellow vinyl. And we'd be like, nah, do green, because like there's the flower on it, and like yellow is kind of weird. Like, let's just do green. And they'd be like, well, we really wanted to do yellow. And I'm like, okay, but why the fuck are we? I'm like, why are we having this conversation at all?
Yeah.
Like, why are you arguing about what color our vinyl is going to be? Like, at the end of the day, I don't care. But it's like, why are we arguing about this? Like,
Yeah.
just like, because you have to write down another color in an email, and like, maybe that has 2 more letters than yellow does.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like, come on. But honestly, they weren't that bad. You know, they helped the band out a good amount, and it's just, yeah. So, and you know, and then we've been with Pure Noise ever since, and it's been great. To get off topic, you know, I know we're talking about Canada and stuff like that, but you know, doing that and just being able to be that Canadian band that got out, you know, for lack of a better term, I guess, broke through into another market. You know, we were kind of at that point, I think it was like us and Structures. We were really the only like Canadian bands in our world that were like doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, we were the only ones that were proper Canadian bands that were like, yo, they actually have like a following in the U.S. now. You know? So it was cool, and it was a disadvantage for sure. But now when I think about it now, I'm just like, you know what? It's like, even I get stressed out like dealing with border shit and like visa stuff and all that. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? If you have enough money, like those problems just go away. You know what I mean? Like, you can go through the border and like, yeah, maybe they'll tax you on your merch, but if you have enough money to pay whatever they ask for, like, you'll be in and out in fucking half an hour. Do you know what I mean? They'll say, how much are you bringing in? Here's the sheet. Here's how much everything's worth. And they'll go, yeah, give us like $700. And we'll be like, okay, see ya. And then we bounce. You know what I mean? But back in the day when you're a small band getting $100 a night, like somebody saying, even like, you know, you have to pay us $100 to get into the country, like, it's like devastating, right? And you're like, oh my God, like, you know, we might not have money to get to the next show now, you know? So, but luckily it's behind us. It's gone now, which is good.
Yeah. Well, I remember Victory killing it back in the day with Atreyu.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were
you know what I mean? It's like
the big band for me at that age.
Yeah, that was definitely yeah, I mean, that band, they caught that wave and just fucking blew up for sure. Yeah, of course.
So I just think that's interesting. But yeah, the whole geography thing, going back to that with Canada, even still on that topic, so now they're blowing up in hip hop, Canada.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Specifically
like Southern
exactly
Ontario.
where you live.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we have, you know, there's so many, you know what I mean? Like, and it's, you know, like what Drake's doing with like OVO and stuff, and you know, it'll be like him and like, you know, like The Weeknd and
Party Next Door.
Yeah, Party Next Door, and like all, you know, it's like, again, you know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy to think, because it's just like, you know, like even in like certain Drake songs and shit, or even in like you know, other people, like they'll mention like Hamilton, or they'll mention like Scarborough, or like Saga City or something, and I'm just like, this is fucked up, man. Like, this guy's, you know, I mean, like, this is on the radio and they're talking about like, you know, they're talking about like Hamilton and shit. And I'm just like, this is fucked up. Like, it's where I grew up, right? Like, normally you hear, you know, like people talking about like California and shit, and then Drake comes on and he's just like, yeah, like fucking Scarborough, it's a Scarborough thing, like shit like that. And you're like, yo, that's literally how they all talk. Like, it's fucked up.
Okay, so I want to talk about what did you expect Counterparts to be when you first started? I mean, I know you said you didn't expect it to be much.
For sure. Yeah.
But like, to what extent, like, or at what point did that mindset pivot, I guess, is a better question. That you're like,
I think like once we So the first time we ever came to the U.S., it was on a tour with, It Prevails, Betrayal, Volumes, and Us. It's like Dollar Menu, Where's the Venue tour was the name of it.
That's right.
And this was in 2011, I think, 2010, 2011, like January, so beginning of the year. And that was the first time that we were playing shows and people were like buying shit and people were going off. Like I remember the first like shock was we played at White Rabbit in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And we literally sold every piece of merch that we had on us. Like we had nothing. We were like, we're done. Like we're packing up. We don't have anything else to sell. The set was like fucking insane. And that was sort of like the first time where I was like, yo, people like us. Like people really like us now. Like, you know what I mean? We're not just opening up, shows for Canadian bands whenever they come through Hamilton. Like, we're not busting ass and driving to Halifax and playing to like 30 kids anymore. It's like, this is good,
Yeah.
So I think like at that point it was just like, we got to do something. Like we got to fucking, we got to take advantage of this and just actually run for it and see what we can do, because obviously when you're touring and stuff, you definitely get like why am I doing this? Like we're not making any money. It sucks. I sleep on floors, but that was sort of the first like kicker where we're like, yo, this could be a thing. You know what I mean? Like this could be something that is not only the most fun job in the world, but it can also be profitable and we can actually do this as a career. And now I like to think, you know what I mean? Like I'm doing it as a career. Like Counterparts is my job. And but yeah, that was sort of like a pivotal moment with the band when we were on that tour and we were like, playing in like California, and it's like I'd never the furthest away I'd ever been was like Detroit maybe for like a hockey game or some shit growing up. And it's like, you know what I mean? Then it was like, we were so far away and people knew who we were, and we'd get messages from people in like Europe and stuff like, I love your band, like please come to Europe soon. And we were like, holy shit, like this could be real, like this could actually be a thing. And then from there on it was just like we're running into this head first. Like this is our shit now. So
dang, that's crazy. So another thing I want to talk about is, so essentially you're saying that Victory was not like a crazy thing that everyone made it out to be. On the marketing standpoint,
yep.
How did you utilize marketing back then with MySpace?
MySpace was the shit.
Yeah, it was.
MySpace was the fucking ticket. I mean, like back then, I mean, I don't necessarily want to call it marketing, but even just something as simple as like, we did a tour with For the Fallen Dreams, and then they put us in their top 8 or their top whatever it was,
16,
because it's top 16, 24, whatever it was. And then, you know what I mean? So it's like, then you throw them in, and then other people, it was kind of like Spotify, like similar artists, or like Apple Music, or like the daily playlist, like that sort of shit where it was like, you didn't have that back then. So you had to go and do the work and be like, okay, I like For the Fallen Dreams. I'm on their MySpace page, like, opening up new tabs of all of these other bands and then just listening to them and seeing which ones you actually enjoy. And that was kind of it. You know what I mean? I distinctly remember like sending messages to bands being like, yo, I love you guys. Like, this, you guys are awesome. Like maybe we can do something. And then people being like, well, actually we can. Let's work on it. And then that's how tours would be booked back in the day.
That's so sick.
And like, and I distinctly remember like talking to people and being like, yo, like, let's do like a fucking top 8 swap. Like we'll put you in ours. Like you put us in yours, and and we'll just
pick comment for pick comment.
Yeah, that kind of shit, right? And and it was just you just did that, and that was how you like marketed yourself back when we started, right?
Yeah.
And and then it was crazy, and then obviously just meeting people and doing that sort of thing, and just making friends, and then all of a sudden you have a tour booked because it's like, this guy's friends with a promoter in this city, and then it's like, oh shit, we have like 20 shows booked. We're going on tour,
Yeah.
And that was that's what our first tours were. It was like, we hit up, the first time we went on tour was with that band Sight for Stone Eyes from Halifax. And they were like, yo, we'll book the East Coast shit from Montreal to Halifax, and you guys book from Ontario to Montreal. And we were like, done, we can do that.
Yeah.
And it was just a swap. You know what I mean? We just
That's
did
tight.
it, and it was like, we headlined the Ontario stuff, and they headlined the East Coast stuff, and it was just, that was it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how you did it. I don't even think we used like email back in the day. It was probably like MSN Messenger and shit like that.
But AIM.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, throwback.
The glory days.
Yeah, seriously though, I
the
really
actual
think
glory days before everything was crazy. And sorry to do this, but before you could smoke a cigarette out of a tube.
For an electronic cigarette. Right? Now they're huge. There's a vape shop down the road.
I was going to go buy one of these from them, but I went to a Chevron to get a yerba mate tea.
Yeah.
And I saw the door, and it was just like, Juul sold here. And I'm like, you know what?
Fuck
Maybe
it.
I'll try and stop smoking today. They're not expensive. I was like, fuck it. You know what? Maybe I'll see if I feel better every day when I get up if I don't smoke anymore. So,
are they low nicotine or what? What are they?
I think like 5% or
okay,
something
so
like
they're
that.
low.
I'm not really sure. It kind of hits like a cigarette, so I think that's why a lot of people prefer them over others. But
Yeah.
I just like that it's like tiny and they're not that expensive. And if I like sit on it and break it, it's like, oh, I just go to a gas station and buy another one. Who gives a shit, you know?
True. All right. So in regards to the writing, the early stages of writing, how did you sort of develop a palette or like gravitate towards writing like poems? And I know you still write poems to this day.
For sure.
But so how did that start in the beginning? Like, what was that like for you to sit down with a pen and paper and start?
I'd always shown interest in like in English, you know, like in school, like I think it was like my strongest subject, and I liked creative writing, and you know, anytime it'd be like, you know, we would like in high school, it'd be like, yeah, you know, we're doing like a poetry unit and shit like that. I was like, oh, fucking game over. Like I'm gonna clean up. Like I'm the smartest motherfucker in the room, and you know what I mean. So it was like, doing that, and you know, like I was very interested in. I liked that I could be creative, and I like it was weird because I liked that I wasn't writing to music, and there didn't, you know, I wasn't writing anything. It was like I could just write whatever I want, and you know what I mean. And it could be short, it could be long, it could be 3 words if I wanted to. It could be a haiku, like you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I started writing, and then you know, when the first time the first like music I was playing like that, I was drawn to being a vocalist because I was like, yeah, then I get to write the lyrics and stuff, and you know, I get to write the lyrics, and then I get to sing the lyrics every night that I wrote, and this is cool, you know, and like it was a challenge for me to, you know, back in the day to really like be as honest as I am now with like, because I mean now it's like I'll write about whatever the hell I want, in both Counterparts and you know what I mean, like I just do it. Like I'm, you know, and I don't. There's never like a second guess where it's like, well, what if people don't like that? Because, you know how we are now. Like you know our brand enough now where it's just like someone's like, I don't like that song. I'm just like, well, you're a fucking idiot. So get the hell out of here.
You're like jump around or don't. I don't go.
Yeah,
fuck.
jump around and move or don't. Who fucking cares? You know what I mean? Like that. Like that's so. You know, I really liked that I could do that, and I had that sort of outlet and stuff. And then obviously it carried over into writing lyrics and. You know, and I think that the biggest thing for me when it came for like writing and lyrics and stuff was working with Will Putney and doing Difference Between Hell and Home. That was the first time I'd ever had anybody tell me, you know, he wants to see my lyrics before I record them. Oh, and you know, he's like we got to lay it out, and you have to record talking tracks. Like on Hell and Home, it'd be like, you know, you know, like whatever, like Witness or something, being like expose me for all, like talking it into a microphone and over the top of the song, so we know the pattern and stuff.
Okay, interesting.
You know, and sort of doing it all like that, and I think that doing it like that, and then doing it for 3 or 2 more records after that kind of made me become a better vocalist, because now it's like, you know, I do it on my own, so that way when I give the stuff to Will, I've already like made sure it's the best I can do. And sometimes still he'll be like, you're smarter than that. You can write a way harder line than that. Like, you know, you're better than that. And I'm like, he's fucking right. I am better than that. I can write better. And then you know what I mean? Then I attack it again, and you know, and then I go, then it makes it to the record. but yeah, I mean, you know, like the whole the writing and the poetry, and just like, I guess just like having some form of creative outlet when I was younger. I mean, it definitely helps. It helped me later on in life doing music for sure. But yeah, I guess I'm just happy that I did something that I stuck with, you know, like something that I actually gave a shit about a lot. Like, you know, I'd have a notebook, and this is before the notes app where I've written the last 3 records. So I had like an actual notebook, and I would just write, and I'd be in school, and I wouldn't be paying attention to the class. I would just be writing down lyrics and stuff and ideas. And, you know, I would do things where I would just write like whatever came to my head, and I would just, you know what I mean? Like I would take like a couple pages, and I would just start writing about like whatever, and like, you know, thought like in the middle of a sentence I would just change the subject, and I would do it, and then I would go back and look at it, and then I'd be like, okay, from that I can kind of like pick the good parts, the parts that sound nice, and I can sort of mold them and then work from there and stuff. And I still do that, you know what I mean? I'll write down something that comes to my head, and then I'll, you know, poke and prod at it and twist it and make it a little bit better. Yeah, you know, and like I'm happy that that's what I stuck with, you know what I mean, was writing, because now, you know, now it's like second nature for me. Like I just do it, you know. I'm always writing and stuff, and it's funny, like I'm out of poems now that Trey and I have like an art project where I'm putting out poetry. Now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm blank. I got writer's block. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's whenever I you know, when I have downtime and stuff like that, like that's usually when I'm writing, and you know, I take those opportunities to just keep busy, you know, even if it doesn't ever make it to be anything, at least I tried, and I'm like working on my craft, I guess.
Yeah. So like I asked this to Garrett in our podcast as well, because you know, he deals with some heavier topics, but so do you as well. Emotional, heavy topics. What kind of mental state are you in when you're writing? Like, is it hard for you to get to that place, or is it pretty like?
No, honestly, not so much. Like, if I'm in a bad place and I write, I think that my writing is very reflective of that. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily that I have to tap in, because the way I write, it'll be like, you know, for example, like when I write a song like Choke or something, it was like I was like distraught, you know, and I needed to do something, and I needed to like get it out in some way, so I wrote it. But then there's times where it's like, you know, I'll write a song like, you know, like off the top of my head I can't think of it, but you know what I mean? Like I'll write something and I'll sort of like not necessarily put myself in that place, but it's like I'm kind of just like remembering what I felt like, or you know what I mean? Or I'm writing about a topic and I'm like, fuck, like, you know, it felt like this, and this is what it felt like. And I don't get upset when I'm thinking about things that have happened to me in the past, but you know what I mean? It's like now that I've moved on from them, if they're not happening right now, I've moved on, and I can sort of look back and, you know, really sort of, you know, pick it apart and figure out how I was feeling, for sure. You know?
Yeah. That's interesting. Because I just wanted to like talk about that. Like, I feel like you have you're so polar opposite in a sense of like, you know, your social media is so funny. Yeah. So like hilarious, you know, yeah. Thank you. You're so cool.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But yeah, and then your lyrics, like, I mean, there are obviously like positive songs, but a lot of it is like really depressing, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And like emotionally taxing, I guess is the word.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a lot of people like ask me that sort of thing, where they're like, yeah, you know, like your lyrics are like fucking sad as hell, but then I see you and you're like funny and you make jokes, and it's like, you know, the one thing that I like is I like that when I'm writing lyrics that I have an opportunity to be like, I feel like shit, I'm gonna write something, you know what I mean? Or like, that made me feel like crap, so I'm gonna write about it. And then, you know, that because I have the outlet, like I get to go on stage and perform, or you know, even if I just get to write poetry, and now I have a outlet to put that out now. So it's like, you know, even like just having the ability to do things like that, I think it makes my time when it makes the rest of my day better. You know? Like it, you know, because like if I'm like truly fucking miserable, like I'm not making jokes, and I'm not on Twitter, like you know, making people laugh and trying to be like funny guy. I'm just upset. But it's like, you know, if I can take an hour and write something or create something and use that side of my emotions for something, then like for something productive, then for the rest of my day, it's like I feel better now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I can do that, and then it's like, shit, well, now I actually feel a little bit better, so maybe I'll go and hang out with my friends and actually, you know, and have some fun and make people laugh, you know? So I think that having Counterparts and being able to like tackle that is just like, it's so much, you know, it's and Fresh Cut Flowers and anything that I'm doing artistically where I can, you know, open myself up, it makes it way easier to be normal with my friends and not be like a miserable, sad prick every minute of the day. You know what I mean? Yeah, like two things that happened in both the Movements podcast and the Silent Planet podcast is fans were asking, you know,
if you have this mental illness, because, you know, Garrett and I'm not saying you have a mental illness, but I'm saying
I understand.
Garrett and Pat both said that they struggle with, you know, depression and anxiety. Fans are wanting to know, you know, if the band made it easier for them to cope. And it sounds like almost like you're saying the similar answer is like, well, it can cover up, like, there's more things to do, stay productive.
Of course,
you know, the noise,
absolutely,
whatnot.
yeah. And I, you know, I would be surprised if somebody that plays music for a living, if you ask that question and you're like, hey, you know, does having this outlet, like, you know, does it help you cope with your, you know, with your mental disorder issue or whatever you want to call it? And they were like, no, it makes it worse. And you know what I mean? Like that'd be so crazy to me. But, you know, things that work for me obviously don't work for everybody. You know? And it's
some
like,
people,
you know, it's not like a blanket thing that everybody likes, but I would be shocked to hear that somebody, you know, didn't find, you know, feel better after, you know, somebody who has depression or something like that. Like I would be shocked to hear that they don't, it doesn't go away for like that brief second, or it doesn't at least feel a little bit good when you get to go on stage and perform. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the other part of the day, I think, that is taxing on people, like, you know, the like hours alone in a van or whatever.
Yeah,
that
for sure.
Some people, you know, quit
of course,
or do whatever. But
yeah,
I'm sure.
I don't necessarily like being alone. Like I always like hanging out with everybody. You know, like when we're in a hotel room and everybody's like kind of doing their own thing and they're like got their headphones in, I'm kind of just like, I get restless and I'm like, yo, like I'm fucking bored. Like let's fucking do something. Let's hang out. Like, yeah, exactly. It's like, well, I'll get the cards. I'll play 31. Like, let's do something. I don't want to just sit here and not talk to anybody. Like, you're my friends. Let's have fun. But, and I get that it can be like, yeah, it can definitely be like taxing for sure. Like, I'm sure some people are like, yo, Brennan won't fucking shut up. Like, he's got to fucking learn how to be by himself. But, you know, it's, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's different for everybody. So it's, find out what works for you, you know?
Yeah.
That's the best advice I could give.
You've joked before about taking Adderall to write lyrics. Is that at all true, or is that
not a joke?
Yeah. Okay. Because I was about to say it. It really does get the mind going.
And honestly, like I don't want to advocate like using, you know, any like using like drugs and shit like that. Like, you know, I don't necessarily think it's cool. I'm not telling people to go and do it, but you know, in terms of writing and stuff in the past, you know, it's not a secret. Like, you know, people will take things like Adderall and like it helps you focus. And the one thing that, you know, I'm gonna sound like I'm like bigging up this drug to be the best thing on the planet. So for the love of God, don't fucking try it ever. Like, don't, you know, I don't want you to hear it and be like, oh, Brennan did it, so I should do it. But you know, obviously, it's, you know, it's like a focus based drug, and when I know that people take it and like they get high, but I don't get high when I take it. You know,
it just
what I mean?
normalizes you.
I'm a very lazy person, and honestly, like I'm fairly certain I do have some sort of like attention disorder.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how much or little it exists, but it exists. And so when I took that, you know, I can't remember what it was for. I was like, I think it was writing or something, and someone's like, yeah, like, oh, you're having trouble focusing. Like, try one of these, and I did, and yeah, you know what I mean? Like it really helped me write, and there was a bunch of other shit I had to do that day, and it was like, you know, it takes your brain from being like a scatter, like a mess of all these things, and it makes it like laser focused. So I would pick one thing, which would be writing lyrics, or, you know, taking photos of like 400 receipts from the Census Fail tour or something like that. You know what I mean? That things that I have to do that I'm like, oh my fucking God, like
TurboTax.
I don't want to do that. Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you get in a mood and it, you know, it focuses you, and you know, it's like the best cup of coffee
you could have
for me. You know what I mean? But again, like I said, like, please, for the love of God, if I hear that somebody like tried it and had something wrong with their heart or something, or got hurt in any way, I would feel enormously responsible for
Disclaimer.
that. So please don't take it unless you need it.
Yeah.
And I know it's hypocritical because I took it and I don't need it in the sense of no doctor has ever told me that I need it, but I honestly, I think it makes me feel normal. It makes me feel like how I think people who are really healthy and like work out and like eat right and, you know, healthy, you know, energetic people. I feel like how they feel they must feel every day.
Yeah.
Like someone who actually takes care of their body and their mind and, you know, does yoga and they drink and they like have a cold pressed juicer and, you know, they don't smoke and they don't drink too often and, you know, they don't do drugs and that sort of thing. And they get up and they're just like, oh, another day. Like I feel great. Like that's how I feel, you know, and it's like, maybe that's really bad. But I mean, you know, I don't really need to fuck with it too much anymore. It's just that one time when I was really struggling with writing and stuff like that. And I think it's just, you know, it is because my brain is fairly scattered and I was having a really hard time focusing. So it did help, but it might not help you. It could maybe kill you. So please don't fuck with it. Please, for the love of God.
Well,
just get one of these.
Yeah, just get a Juul.
You're fine.
5%, maybe less. We don't know. Anyway,
Probably less.
Probably less. One thing I want to talk about too. So when I did my podcast, actually no, it wasn't even a podcast with Michael Barr. We were just talking in general. This was probably years ago. He was like, dude, I love Counterparts, man.
Yeah.
You know, he's like
I said, he was in Volumes when we did that first tour ever. Like we both. I think that was both of our first tours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we were both like learning the learning the ropes together.
Yeah, he was saying like, man, like it was crazy. They were straight edge on that first tour, right? You guys straight edge the first tour?
Like I was. I was straight edge, and then like, you know, a couple of the guys like they would drink, but just like not very much. You know what I mean? Nobody like smoked weed or, you know, no one. I mean, even now, like none of us are like drug guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're not.
You're not Volumes.
None of them. Yeah, if they're into that stuff, I mean, yeah. But it's like, you know what I mean? Like we're not. Honestly, like I have no desire to fuck with that stuff, but. At the same time, it's like, you know, we make money, but we don't make that money. You know what I mean? Like when I think of like drugs and stuff, and I think of like cocaine and like that sort of thing, I'm like, you gotta have fucking money to afford that shit. I'm like, what the hell? Like, you know, you're not talking about like buying a $10 bag of weed. Like you're talking about like real people money drugs, and it's like, yo, that's like designer versus like store brand shit. It's like you know, I'm not fucking with that. I'm not paying $100 to. Well, I'll pay $5 to get an Adderall to feel the fuckers, but, you know.
Or Jameson bottle.
Yeah,
maybe
and that's
here
the thing.
or there.
Like, you know, we drink. Maybe we're teetering on the level of like, you know, where we drink a little bit too much, but you know, in our sense, like. I don't necessarily think that any of us like need it. I don't think there's like a dependency thing. I think it's just a matter of like, you know, we're out on tour, we're trying to have fun, and you know, we're getting some Jameson, so you know, we swallow a little, you know, here and there, and you know, get a little loose and kind of enjoy your time and relax and have fun out here, because a lot of the times, you know, when you're on tour, you forget that. You know, like me especially, like I forget that it's like, yo, this is supposed to be like fucking fun, and I'm like not having fun. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm gonna go do goddamn karaoke tonight or something. You know, I'm gonna go have fun. I'm gonna go do something. I'm gonna go spend some fucking money. You know, but yeah, it's like, I think it's kind of dangerous, you know. I shouldn't even say kind of, like it is just, I truly think that, you know, when you get heavily into that sort of stuff, I mean, I think that a lot of people do it because they see other people doing it, or they're like, you know, oh, I'm in a band on tour, like I got this like reputation, like I got to be like the party guy who drinks and does whatever and all this stuff, and it's like, you know, it's just kind of ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't do anything because you think you should. It's like you either you want to or you need to, and you do it. And you know, I mean, look at us. Like we're not. You know what I mean? Like when I think of like rock star, like I think we're the furthest thing from it. It's like we fucking we play Magic the Gathering, we fucking do private room karaoke,
Rocket League.
Yeah, like Kyle fucking
Last
kills
night.
at Rocket League. Like, you know, we
Rock band legend.
Yeah, like, you know, we're not. You know, when everyone. It's always funny when you meet people that are on the outside and they're like, you're in a band, man, fucking drugs and girls.
How
and
many
shit.
girls you fucking, brother?
And I'm just like, nah, it's like Magic the Gathering and fucking Raising Cane's, like that. I'm like, you're living in a fucking, you know, dream world now. It's really funny, but yeah, it's so funny that's people's thing. Like, hey, you know, fucking, you guys must get paid all this money. You got fucking groupies and all your roadie do everything for you.
What's your bus look like?
Yeah, what's the bus? Which bunk on the bus is yours? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I sleep up in the front in the fucking van sometimes. I had to do it the other day. It fucking brought me back for sure. Reminded me of that first tour that we did here. I was just like, God damn it. But that was our fault. We just waited till the last minute to book hotel rooms, and there just weren't.
Oh shit.
So we were like, oh. we got to relive fucking 2010 right now. That's
Bring it
where
back.
we're at. Yeah, but that was funny. I did it mostly because it'll be a funny story to tell everybody the next day. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I did it. But.
Well, one thing I want to talk about, you're pretty on record for saying you like dislike the older Counterparts stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
why is that?
Dislike in a sense of, I like it, and I think that back then, like when I was, when I'm talking about like Prophets and Current and stuff, it's like when I was 18 and stuff, like 17 and 18, 19, whatever, doing those records, they have their place, and like I do like it, and I look back and I listen to them, and I'm like, yo, this is really cool for being like fresh out of high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we were, I'm proud of what we wrote, and I think that, we had good material, and I think that those records obviously opened, like, they made us better musicians that, now we're writing what we're actually writing. But my dislike of those albums comes just from being underprepared. That's all it is. You know what I mean? Like, so when we went in to do Current, we did that shit in like a week. There like wasn't really much production. There wasn't much like, hey, let's pre-pro the songs and make sure they're good before we actually hit record. It was like, nah, we hit record and just record whatever.
You're good.
We weren't making anything better. We weren't like, the way I see it is like I feel like we could have just tried so much harder, but also like, we didn't know, we were young, and we didn't know that we're, the way that we do things with Will Putney is clearly the best way to get things done for us. Like we had no idea, obviously. So that's where my dislike comes from. And like, it's just funny, and like, I always grill people when they're like, yo, like play shit off Prophets. It's like, the reason why I grill people is because we did it and nobody gave a shit. Like we did a tour, I think it was in Europe or it was in Canada, places where it's like, Prophets was more of a thing. And we were like, yo, we're doing like an older block where we're gonna play shit from like Prophets and The Split. Like we're gonna do fucking Reflection and John Locke and Own the Yankers and Goodbye Megaton and all, and we're gonna do all these like older songs. And then we did it, and everybody in the room is just like nobody had a fucking clue what we were doing. And I was like, this is what you all asked for.
Yeah.
I'm like, you begged us for this, and we give it to you, and you look at me like I'm a fucking idiot. I'm like, what the hell? Like, so that's sort of where, like, obviously I'm kidding. Like I said, like I fuck with the earlier Counterpart shit. Like we wrote it all together, whether or not people prefer that to the new stuff. That's totally your opinion. I mean, you're still coming to see us. You're still, you still like the band. So it doesn't matter to me what record is people's favorite.
Yeah.
But I think that Hell and Home and Onward was really like, that was when we really figured it out.
Yeah.
If Hell and Home was like our first record and Tragedy was 2 and You're Not You Anymore was like 3, I think that, we would look like such a stronger band because we didn't have that earlier stuff where we were kind of just like dicking around and didn't really know any better. Mm-hmm. But, because when I think about it, it's like, yo, we have fucking 5 full-length albums and an EP. Like, holy shit, that's a lot of music, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we could have definitely trimmed some of the fat. Current Will Carry Us especially, I think that, there's songs on it, like Disconnect and Reflection, Constant, Thank God. There's song, I Am No One. Like, there's songs on it that are very strong. And then, like, when you get into songs like Sinking or Pedestal or stuff like that, it's just kind of like they had potential, but we didn't know any better. You know what I mean? Like like the stuff like where right now, like if we brought like Pedestal into with Will Putney, like we would probably turn it into a song that we would play every single night. But we didn't, unfortunately. So it's just like, well, fuck, like we're kind of screwed. So
yeah.
But you know how it is. People always like goof on their other shit and like their older stuff. And there's Blake right there. People always goof on their past for sure, but I'm proud of it, I will say.
So one thing I want to talk about is basically how You're Not You fits into the discography now. The last time we sat down with each other, it was not even released yet. So
for sure.
How do you think fans reacted to it, and how does it fit in with everything?
Honestly, I think that You're Not You was so with our band and like with our releases, every single one was like a painfully slow burn. So we would put the record out, and people would immediately the reaction was, yeah, it's cool. It's not as good as the last one though. You know what I mean? Like we put out, we had Prophets, we put out Current Will Carry Us, and everyone's like, it's not as good as Prophets. And then we put out Hell and Home, and everyone's like, it's not as good as Current Will Carry Us. Tragedy, not as good as Hell and Home, like that kind of shit. But then with You're Not You Anymore, it was almost instantly like we put the record out and everybody was just like collectively, unanimously, just this is the best Counterparts record. Like this is fucking awesome. And and that was the first time in our career that we had ever like had that reaction, like where a new record was well received almost instantly. And like I'm not even convinced that it was the music. I think it was just because we told everybody it was album of the year, and people were just like, "Oh fuck, I guess it's true." We were coming out of the gate being like, "Our new record's out today. It's the best record that's coming out this year. Like, if you don't agree, you're an idiot." Like as a joke, but you know what I mean. I'm sure people were kind of like, "Well, they're pretty confident. I respect that. That's kind of cool." They're actually into it. But yeah, and like the way it fits into the discography is, I think I do think, and like it's cheesy and it's cliche to say, obviously, but I think that it is a very good mix of everything that we've ever done. And I think that as we keep putting out records, we just get better at identifying what is a Counterparts song and what's a Counterparts part and what's a Counterparts like trademark, more than we did on the last one. You know what I mean? So we kind of trim out this fat that doesn't necessarily need to be there, that doesn't really belong. So as we keep putting out stuff, like, and it was the first record that we attacked with like a actual song structure writing, like there's verses, there's choruses, there's bridges, like that sort of stuff, like the thing, like the lyrics rhyme and stuff like that. And, and we tried that because we were like, we're like, because we all listen to like pop music and stuff like that. Yeah. So we're like, if we can incorporate this into our band, we might be able to actually, be a catchy band, and like our take when we were doing You're Not You was, we want to be able to put the record out. People listen to the entire thing. They don't skip, this song and that song. They don't like listen up to here and turn it off. It's like, we want a record that people will start and they will play from start to finish, and a record where we can play every single song live and every song will go off and people will like every song that we play on stage. We pretty much, we took our karaoke ideal, which is hits only, and we tried to write a record that was hits only. Yeah. And we did our best, and I think that that's a big reason why the record did so well, because we were just like, yo, we had 16 songs and it became 10, like 11, one was an intro. But you know what I mean? Like we had 16 songs written for the record, and we cut basically 6 of them out that weren't strong enough. So you know what I mean? It's like we really went full psycho. We did pre-pro before we went to Japan, we did pre-pro, then we went on the Census Fail tour, then we did pre-pro again, and then started recording. So it was like 2 rounds of reworking the songs and being like, are we fucking positive that we cannot make the song any better? Yeah. And then when it was like, we cannot write a better song than this, we cannot make this any cooler than it is, then we're like, okay, we'll record it. and we did that, and then there was still like 3 songs that we were like, this song is as good as it's gonna get, but it's not good enough. It's not gonna be on the record. There's no way. You know what I mean? And we're gonna release them eventually. Like, we're talking to Pure Noise about just putting out like a 7-inch with all those songs on it, because they're cool, but like they're sick and they'll probably be fun to play live, but they're just not, they just didn't make the record. They just weren't strong enough. Yeah. But yeah, and like that's how I view You're Not You Anymore. I think it's the strongest record. I think it's the best written record, and not a dig towards Jesse or anybody else that was writing, or anybody in the past. I think it's just, we tried to, we all as a band, like we're very close now, so we tried to write that way, and we all wrote together, and nobody was afraid of like speaking up if they didn't like a part, and so on, and it was just like, it was really like it was a culminative effort. Fuck me, I can't even say it. It was very, it was very much a project that we all worked on together. Will worked on, and other people in the studio would walk by and throw in ideas, and it was just like, it was very collaborative. Is what I'm what I'm trying to say.
What song off the record would you say, now that you've digested it, it's been enough time, would you say is like your favorite from the entire record? Like, is there one that stands out? Or
honestly, No Servant, I think, is like the hardest song on the record. It's like, and like when we play it live, like people go off, like everyone like doing like the holding the mic out, and everyone's like, "No Servant," like it's fucking sick. I really like that. I think that song is like a very good mix of it's heavy and melodic, it's catchy, and it's fucking hard, and you know what I mean. It's like, I think that might be my favorite song, but I also, my second favorite, or maybe still my first favorite, is like more of a sleeper. Like people kind of sleep on it. It's Fragile Limbs.
Okay.
I love that song. Like I love it. I think it's weird, but it's tastefully weird. Like it's different. You know what I mean? Like the chorus is sick. The second time when the chorus hits, and there's like the singing on it and stuff, like. You know, I really like the lyrics on that. Like, you know, Fragile Limbs is definitely up there for me too. But yeah, like I said, honestly, there's no, like, it's weird to say, but like, I think my least favorite song on the record is probably Thieves. And like, I love that song, but you know, when I think on it, I'm just like, the other ones just have like so much more. Like Thieves is just the new Slave, the new Choke, and and like that's a criticism that song gets, is people are like, yeah, it's just kind of like Slave or Choke Part 2, and it's like, well, why do you think when I say like, you know, with my last breath, I will strangle you to death with your own fucking hand, like that shit? I'm like, you know, I'm not a fucking dummy. Like, you know, it sounds like Slave and Choke mixed together because that's what it is.
Yeah, it's
and lyrically, it is that too. Like I made it a point to have, you know, to have the lyrics like, you know, be reflective of the other two. And a lot of people are like, he even says like it's about choking, and it's like choke, and it's fucking, you know, with my last, like every breath could be my last, and he says with my last breath, like my last breath, and I'm like, yeah, man.
Oh
like,
my god.
Yeah, like that's
point.
Pretty fucking crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Like crazy that he did that. Where did you learn to do that? English class, 10th grade.
Yeah, it's like people don't assume that they're those little Easter eggs. Are there any other sort of like Easter eggs in the album that people might not?
Yeah, I mean, like, so when I write, like, there's a lot of like, you know, references to other you know, to album titles, like lyrics and songs, like song titles, anything like that. There's a lot of, you know, even like, I think the biggest one would be like with Choke, and then saying like the compass has been cracked. You know what I mean? Like that was one that everybody was like, oh fuck, like that's, you know, even in Bouquet, like the first couple lines, like disconnecting veins, disconnect in an effort to release my tragedy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like tragedy will find us, like, you know,
awesome.
and like I always try to be, like it's a sanctuary, like the song "The Sanctuary" from Prophets. That's like an ancient throwback. Like I'm attacking a song from every album within the first like 20 seconds of the song.
Awesome.
So, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of that stuff. I will say in the "You're Not You Anymore" video, there's some Easter eggs. I don't know if they all made it, but there's references to every song on the record in the video, I think. If not every song, then there's like a lot.
Really?
You know, even in certain, like the way things are placed. Like, for example, like in the mirror, like you know what I mean? Like for the first time he goes to like the Black Lodge for the Twin Peaks fans. The mirror's fine. The second time he goes, he's looking in it and it's cracked, and it's like, oh, like collecting shards from mirror images of me. Like, oh, okay.
So
you know what I
sick,
mean? Like
yeah.
stuff like that. And I remember being on the phone with Trey when him and Josh were like writing the treatment for the video, and I'm like throwing out things being like, we could do that, and then, you know, we could like the black behind my eyes, like we can have the black contact like that. You know, that's that can be in it, like, you know, and we were just like going over things from like every song to where it could be, you know, to where there could be a little Easter egg like that. I won't give them all away, but
yeah.
They're all. I think they're all in there. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
I love doing little shit like that. I think that shit's fun as hell.
Yeah. So you
Like,
have
dude,
like
we
a
hit
big
fucking Adam Shoji in the Swim Beneath My Skin video. It took people like not a year. It hasn't even been out a year, but that shit was like, so it's really funny. We had in the Jumping Ship video, there's like half a second frame where Adrian's playing drums, and this is before Adrian was in the band. He was just selling merch for us. So he it's a snare hit and it's Adrian and not Ryan. And then in the Swim video, there's a part where it's not Adrian and it's Adam Shoji. Like we just, you know what I mean? Like it
foreshadowing for Adrian getting kicked out of the band and being replaced.
Possibly. No, I hope not. I do love Adrian, even though he bugs me to get sushi when I'm clearly fucking busy.
Adrian's funny. Yeah, man, that's hilarious. So, so you'd say you have a pretty big part then in like the whole entire creative aesthetic for Counterparts, right?
Yeah. So obviously, obviously it's mostly Trey. Like, you know, he designs all the merch. He did the Youre Not You cover. He does anything. He does our promos. He's doing our videos now. Like anything, any visual of the band, like he's the one that has a hand in it. He's pretty much like the sixth member. You know what I mean? Like I would say that he's a member of the band now. And yeah, you know what I mean? And like him and I work on a lot of it together. And I think that it, you know, being in the band and having a hand in what our band like says visually is very strong, because even on this tour, you know what I mean? Like you're, you know, or other tours, it's like we do tours with bands where they're like, yeah, I don't know, like our manager got all these merch designs. Like, I don't know if they'll sell. Whereas with us, we're like, yo, Trey, like he designs the merch, but he also sells it. So he knows what does well. So we're like, okay, this thing did well, so we're going to do something similar to this shirt, but make it a little bit newer. And we're going to do this thing, and we notice what kids are asking for. If kids ask for, like, you know, an older design, it's like, okay, we're going to do like a revamped version of it and kind of give them what they want, but it's still new, but it's old at the same time. You know, and so, you know, having a hand in that is really cool because I get to, you know, control how the band is visually represented, which is it's not that common for a lot of bands, but I love it because, you know, you know, there's never like, you know, when you go on like Warped Tour or something and there'll be a band where they'll like pull out a tank top and be like, yeah, our fucking manager wanted us to print these and they sell like shit and no one likes them. And it's like, that just doesn't happen for us. Yeah. Because I'm like, on this tour, everyone's like, yeah, like, you guys selling a lot of merch? I'm like, yeah, we are. And they're like, oh, that's crazy. I'm like, it's not, because our merch spread is fucking sick. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, if it looked like crap and we were selling a lot, I would say that's crazy, but it's not. Yeah. Like, it's very nice. It's very well thought out. It's very calculated. And it's paying off because people are walking by, and I'm sure half of them don't even, you know, are there for Architecture Stick to Your Guns and are hearing us for the first time, but they're walking by going, oh, wait a minute, like, this looks fucking cool. I like this. Like, what is, you know, when in Europe, when Sam was wearing like the Not You sweater, like on stage and in photos and stuff, and the guitar player of While She Sleeps is doing the same thing. People were hitting them up, being like, "Yo, what's this like Not You like clothing line, like brand
Not You clothing
line?" And they were showing it to us, and I was just like, honestly, that's like the best compliment we could get. Yeah, is that our merch looks so good on its own that it doesn't even have to be related to a band for people to buy it. I'm like, that's fucking sick. Like, mission accomplished.
For sure. Whose idea was it to have the entire like O with the cross through it, like this?
Trey and I kind of came up with that one together. So we were deciding between like a couple different things, but honest to God, like the reason why we went for like the strikeout was there's an emoji for it. Yeah. So we can post it everywhere, and also that like you can't have your eyes open and not see that logo like anywhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you wake up and walk around the block in your neighborhood, like you'll probably see it 2 or 3 times at least. Yeah. So it's always in people's heads. So like, you know, people will walk by and they'll see a no smoking sign and they'll be like, oh,
Counterparts.
And it's like, yeah, you know, yeah, that's what it is. But at the same time, it's like, yo, they're remembering the band. They're thinking about the band. They're thinking about the album. Yeah. And it's hidden in plain view everywhere. And it's like, you know, it is calculated. You know what I mean? Like it's funny because we were doing like Not You, like how can we work with Not You? And then we were talking about doing like the equal sign with the slash through it because it's like, you know, it's like not, you know, like you're not equal to, like you're not the same. Yeah. And we thought that would be really cool. And then I was just kind of like, there's no emoji for that. There's a big fucking red emoji that's our backdrop that looks, you know. And I'm like, if we do that, like people are gonna run with that. They're gonna post it everywhere. We can have it on shit. We can, you know, we can do whatever we want, and it paid off. You know what I mean? Like now, when I think, if you know our band and you see that everywhere, like you're gonna be like, hey, Youre Not You, album of the year. Like you're gonna see it, and it'll instantly, you know, remind you of, oh, maybe when I'm on the way home, I'll listen to that record. I don't know, you know, and it makes for, it's just like hidden visual reminders. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like almost subliminal in a way.
Oh yeah. It's a real thing.
For sure.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was going to talk about too with Bring Me. Like Bring Me had the umbrella for their record. Yeah,
for sure.
And that was like, it looks almost exactly like the emoji.
Yeah,
and I was
exactly.
Just like,
and honestly, like that's, you know, you're like, for us, like, you know, for the strikeout and stuff, it was just like, you know, you're taking this thing that exists everywhere in the world already, and then you're attaching yourself to it. You know what I mean? Like, you're taking, like I said, that strikeout sign, like, you'll see it fucking everywhere. Like, I can probably look around right now and see one in the Chain Reaction
from the Chain Reaction
lot.
parking lot.
I mean, there's definitely one on the dashboard right there on the sweater. But, but yeah, like, you know what I mean? You can look around and see one. And, and, you know, when you attach your brand to something that already exists like that, it's just like, it's the game over. You know what I mean? To be fair, we were a little worried about it looking like the Under Oath thing, but that's a no. That's a no. Some people do that, and they're like, you know, it's like, looks like the Under Oath design, and it's like, I guess
has to go through. Yeah,
on
it's
each
like
side. There's subtle differences, and also, like, you know, there's is the whatever, I can't remember the meaning behind it or whatever, but it's like, you know what, there's been enough time to where we can do that, and and then again, if it's like, hey, if somebody sees like the Not You strikeout and they're like, hey, that reminds me of Under Oath, it's like, I don't hate being compared to Under Oath because I fucking love that band. So it's like, you know what I mean?
And they say the F word now, so they're cool.
There you go. So yeah, not that we're necessarily like jocking their shit, but it's like, you know, if people want to compare us like that, it's like, that's a really nice comparison. You know, to be compared to the band that did They're Only Chasing Safety, it's like, that's a very strong compliment, and I really do appreciate it. But, you know, if you're an Under Oath fan and you don't fuck with us because we did that, sorry. My bad. I don't need your fucking money anyway. We're all good.
I'm already rich, so.
Yeah, apparently. Apparently. I'm buying fucking $50 vapes now at gas stations.
Yeah. Fucking. All right, so one thing I want to talk about is pretty much the last thing. We're nearing towards the end. What is your vision for Counterparts like in the future? Where do you see it like going to, and what's your ideal scenario for how you wish it to end, I guess?
So it's funny, I had this conversation with Trey, like we were kind of talking about, like, you know, it all stemmed from the strikeout, funny enough. I was like, what the fuck are we going to do next? I'm like, dude, we have that strikeout thing, and it's so easy to throw it on everything. But I'm like, the second we put out another full length that isn't called Youre Not You anymore, like, it's like, shit, we got to find a new thing. Like, we have to start over. You know, but then we were talking about, so like, you know, the future of Counterparts, like for me, what I would love to see is I want to be able to do things that are like, you know, weird and sort of like go against the grain of like what, you know, Johnny fucking every band does. You know what I mean? Like, so we're talking about doing like a headline tour and stuff like that, and, you know, talking about like bands to support. Like, you were in the room for the conversation yesterday, and you know, and it's like, you know, we're talking about like these like 4 or 5 band packages and stuff like that, and it's like, yo, what if we went out with like us and one other band and like made it cool? You know what I mean? And then we had ideas of doing shit where it's like, you know, what if it get like, you know, and that's the thing that we would bring up. Like, that was our manager that we were talking to, and, you know, like bringing up things like that are very out of the ordinary in our world. It's like it's for sure gonna get shot down. It's gonna be like, you're crazy, you're nuts. Like, you can't go and headline by yourself. And it's like, I agree. I'm fully aware that if we did like a 4 or 5 band package, we would probably sell more tickets. But then you run into all these things of like, you know, on our last headliner, it's like, did everybody come for us, or were they there for Knock Loose? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And then we get their numbers. Like, you know, that was like the beginning of them popping off. And it's like, you know, it was a Counterparts headliner, so those numbers were directly reflective of us. But it's like, if Knock Loose was on it, if they weren't on the tour, maybe there would be 100 less people.
Yeah, it's
possible. You know, so it's kind of like, so what I want, my goal with the band is I want to do things that are out of the ordinary that we just think are sick, and I want our fans to be on board. You know what I mean? Like that, and honestly, it kind of works already. You know, like we kind of see that with, you know, with how we do things, and, you know, like I was talking to Cam from Teenage Wrist about it today, about how when we do stuff with merch, you know, we do everything in our own way, and you know, we do it all ourselves, and, you know, we have these things that we do that seem weird for a lot of people at the time, and, you know, a lot of people are like, you're doing you're gonna have merch without your band name on it? Like, what are you, nuts? Like, it's merch, you have to have the band name on it. And we're like, no, we don't. and then everyone's like, "You're fucking crazy. You're gonna lose thousands of dollars. Like no one's
Your
gonna,
numbers.
no one's gonna buy it." And then they fucking fly because our kids are like, "Well, I know that Brendan and Trey probably made this shirt on a drive when Brendan was driving and Trey was sitting shotgun, so I like it based on that fact alone."
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, you know, fucking year or so later, you start seeing other bands doing stuff like that, and we're like, hey, we were kind of ahead of the curve a little bit. You know, not to be like egotistical.
No, yeah, but it's true.
But you know, like when we start thinking things are like, yeah, this is kind of like we've done this for a minute, where it's overdone. Then we start noticing like that's when other people hop on it, and we're like, oh, we've been there. We've done that. It's over now for us. We'll move on to something else. You know, but yeah, like I said, like that's sort of my goal, is like being able to do weird things, or like being able to go and do tours where it's like, you know, we're gonna play a fucking venue and it's gonna be us. It's gonna be doors at 8 and we play at 9. You know, come out if you want. And then when you do stuff like that, you know, we were talking about it today. We're like, we can do shit like that where tickets are like so cheap. Like we can do a smaller room, like 500 cap room. Tickets can be so cheap because it's just us. Like we're the only band. And then in turn, like we'll be making more guarantee wise, so that we can charge less for merch and all these sort of things. And it's like, you know, there's all these like weird things that we really want to do that a lot of people are, you know, they're scared. But I want to be the band that isn't afraid to do those things. And that's my goal, is like now, like to stop doubting myself and stop being scared and stop letting people talk me out of these ideas that I have that I think are really cool. Because at the end of the day, to complete this, when the band ends, I want Counterparts, like I just want it to be remembered, and I want Counterparts to be remembered as like, you know, a band that did their own thing, and a band that, you know, they didn't fold, and they didn't, you know, take shit from people, and they didn't kiss ass and play the game to be successful. You know, it's like I want people to remember us as, you know, being a band that we were real, and we didn't do anything that we didn't want to do. We didn't kiss ass. We didn't bend over backwards for people that we didn't have to. It's like, you know, we did our own thing, and our fans fucked with it because they fuck with us. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's how I want it to go. And if Counterparts ends, and, you know, people, you know, we have maybe not necessarily like, maybe legacy is the wrong word, but like, you know, I want in like, you know, in 20 years or 15 years or whatever, like when we're not a band anymore, I want people to think back and be like, man, like Counterparts was doing some like cool shit, man. Yeah. Like they were a cool band full of real dudes. You know, they didn't fucking, you know, they didn't play it up. They were, you know, they weren't fake about anything. They did what they wanted to do, and people respected them and liked them because of that. Yeah. And to me, I think that can be the most complimenting nail in the coffin for the band. But I hope we don't break up anytime soon, because I really like it, and we're finally starting to play like killer fucking shows. So it's like, yo, I want to ride this out for a minute for sure. Yeah, this Architects run is crazy. It's been psycho. Yeah, and we've been doing really well, and it's just like, you know, it's been great. You know, like even though we're opening, and it's really funny. Like, so last night, for example, I'll tell the story. Like, you know, we got to the venue and everybody was just like, oh, like the stagehands, they're like, yeah, like if no one's busy, like the opening band's here, or like we have to like help them, I guess, with their stuff. I guess. And shit, and like doing all that, and then, you know, there's supposed to be security guards at the barricade because you put in a barricade, and you need to have somebody there to catch kids so they don't break their necks and die. Yeah. And in their mind, you know, it's like they're the opening band, like who cares? And then no one's gonna care. No one's gonna give a shit. A fucking easy night. And then it's like, yeah, we are a very easy band to work with. Like in terms of, you know, it's like if we had one stagehand, like, you know, the 5 of us could bring everything in one go. You know, but it's like, you know, we're very easy to work with. But in that sense, you know, 30 seconds into our set, there was kids like on the stage and over the barricade, and then Shoji has to jump off stage and be like, yo, why the fuck isn't anybody here helping? Like, you have to catch these kids, they're gonna get hurt. Yeah. And then they go, they're opener, I didn't think that anybody you know. And it's like, even though we're like the opener, we're still having fucking killer shows. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then we're making these venues that are viewing us as, you know, and these promoters and stuff that are viewing us as just the opening one of 3 who gives a shit band. Yeah. You know, we're like giving them a run for their money. We're showing them like, yo, like, you know, but what doesn't make any sense is like the amount of money that that were getting paid is just like, you would think that they'd be like, well, they're getting paid a decent amount. Maybe people actually like them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, it's, you know, it's like, it's crazy. Like, you know, like I said, even though we're the opening band and we play like an hour after doors, and you know, that all of that, and we have a short set, and all that aside, like we're performing, we're having better shows, where we're selling more merch, we're doing it, you know, we're doing better on this one than I would say we did on like Warped Tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that was, you know, it's like the biggest tour you could do, you know? And it's like, you know, even though we're the little guy, we're still fucking, you know, we're still making people notice, which is good, because that, you know, it's been a long time, and I feel like, you know, we have this like underdog quality about our band.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where a lot of people are like, it's just Counterparts. You know what I mean? And like, I want to prove them all wrong. I want to show them up. I want people to, you know, start realizing like, yo, you know what? They're worth the damn. People like that band a lot, because I know people like us a lot. Like,
yeah,
you know, I talk to everybody every night, and I know how much they care about our band. So it's like, you know what? I would love the people that aren't on the ground level to realize that. You know?
Yeah, even literally right. So we had talked about this before, that people were like hassling me to get a podcast with you.
Yeah, for sure.
But even again, like literally like right before you came out, someone was literally already tweeting me, "Hey, so Counterparts has been in SoCal for 2 days.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, yeah. Where the hell's a podcast?" And I'm like,
it's coming.
Gosh,
right?
damn
it's
it.
fucking coming.
It's coming. All right.
Yeah,
So anyways,
exactly.
Yeah, people definitely do care, and I've never seen anyone stage dive at the House of Blues in my life, because
we'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because normally they have somebody there. And like, and that's the thing, is like, you know, I don't care that, like, you know, if security was just like not present or whatever, and there was no barricade, like obviously I wouldn't give a shit. But what scared me with that was like, that guy that got on stage and dove, it literally looked like he was gonna fall on his head in the photo pit. And I'm like, if you want to have a barricade, you have to make it safe, because if there was no barricade,
then it'd be fine.
He would get to the front of the stage and jump right off, and it's like, okay, that's totally cool. You know, I'm not a fan of barricades, like I don't really like them, but if you want to do it at your venue, like, you know, you need to have someone just be attentive, because that kid literally could have split his head open, he could have broke his neck and been paralyzed, and then, you know, and then fucking who knows who's gonna have to pay for that? Like, is it House of Blues? Is it us? Like, is it Disney? You know what I mean? It's like, so, and more importantly, I don't want anybody to get hurt. You know, like I don't want people to get fucking paralyzed at our shows. So it's like, you know what? That's why I was mad, and that's why I said something about security, because I was like, you know what? If you want to fucking do this, and you want to have 5 security guards, and you want to have a barricade, and you want to fucking, you know, do it and be a big venue, like you need to have these people, you know, taking care of the show, because that kid, like I said, that kid literally could have died. And then, you know, then I have to go the rest of my life saying, you know, knowing that kid died during her set. Like, you know, like that sucks. And that's how venues get shut down. And that's why venues go, we're not booking any fucking heavy shows ever again, and stuff like that. You know, it's like, just be attentive. You know, we're not the biggest band in the world. It's not going to be that crazy, but have one guy there.
They're getting paid. Sure. That's the crazy part. Like, they're getting paid
too. It's like, yo, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe work.
Someone's paying you to do it, right? So that's like, you know, a mosh call of mine is just at the end of the disconnect. Like, I know everyone's going to try and get on the stage. So I just like point at the security guards and just go, put them to work. Like, make them earn their fucking money right now for me, please. And then they do. And I'm just like, you thought you had an easy fucking night. You thought that we were just the fucking opening band, and you actually had to work and, you know, and earn it. So just like us, because we're up there working. It doesn't feel like work, because I'm making fucking fart jokes and shit, and pee and poo poo this and diaper that, and then at the end of the night I still get a check. So it's like, okay, sure.
Check, please.
Check, please. I can't believe I actually said that yesterday. Cash or check? Oh, check, please.
Check, please.
I wish I would have been. Oh, check. Check, please.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you so much for finally sitting down on that podcast.
An hour and a half. That's perfect.
Yeah, an hour and a half. That's perfect. That's like what I try to go for with these. So.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, thanks for talking to me. I always, like I said, I always look forward to. It was funny. I told Trey, I was like, yeah, I'm doing another podcast. And he's like, what? Another one? I'm like, yeah, but it's Tim. It's my fucking dog. I'm like, it's going to be fun. Like, I don't care. You know, because you don't, you're not asking me like what the album art, like what's the meaning behind, you're asking me like cool questions, and I get to actually elaborate, which is always great. I always look forward to talking to you anytime we're here. So
awesome, man. Well, yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, that's the podcast, guys. Signing out, Cayem podcast.
Be safe. Take care. Check, please.
Check, please, baby.